Okay, this is my latest swinger, and I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'll go through the bill of materials, which is about $40 to $50. It's a little more expensive because I put bearings in there to make it a little smoother and swing for a longer time. I made this one really nice, so that's the only reason it costs that much. Sometimes I can make an entire swinger with scrap wood and not cost me a dime. I like to make things out of recycled stuff so I don't have to spend any money, because after all, it does get shot up. But this is a pretty nice one, and so I even hinged the pull stick, and I made a T because there's 3 of them there. So I'm going to show you how it works, then I'll give you the materials, and then I'll describe the measurements. And if you're fairly handy with wood and have a few tools, you'll be able to do this no problem. It's very easy to build one of these in about 30 to 60 minutes. Okay, and so you come back about 7 or 10 yards, and you can trigger this by hand. You could trigger it with a steel target that falls, or you could have one swinger trigger and daisy chain other swingers. I've done it all those different ways before, and I like wooden movers because they're much smoother. The steel ones are expensive and they move very fast, and it requires too much pure luck sometimes to hit them, even as a master shooter. So if you pull this one, 1001, 1002, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You'll see I can get up to about 15 seconds and it's still got good movement, good amplitude. So you can have someone have the shooter trigger to begin of a stage. You could have someone else trigger it during a stage. So, for example, if someone crosses a wall, then the other person pulls it. And so there's many different ways you can use it. Static, on the retreat, in the advance, going across the stage on the move. It's very up close, far away, and it's very challenging, a good skill builder. Because, you know, if you're wanting to become a good shooter, you got to be able to shoot moving targets while you're moving. Okay, so let me talk about how to build it. It's very, very simple. Between Lowe's, Home Depot, Tractor Supply, and Ace Hardware in the USA anyway, you can get all of these parts for about $45. Okay, the metal parts or the hardware parts, I got this 100 feet of this for $6 in the clearance bin. This rope, at Tractor Supply, this was about $3. So I've got about $2 worth of rope, $3 for this hinge. I'm just going to talk about hardware first. I've got less than $20 in this green rod from Tractor Supply. It comes in a longer rod. I cut it in half. And these 6 bearings. I have a bearing, one of these bearings, sleeve bearings, 6 of them, 2 per these 3 sticks, 1 on each side. So that's 6 of those in this rod. So that's $20. So we're talking $25. Oh, about $25 would also include this 1/2 inch PVC. Okay, and just go ahead and buy the whole stick and it'll last you for a while. You use it many times. Okay, so you can make the little spacers to keep it spaced and everything. So that's about $25 for the hardware and the rope. Okay, now the wood is even cheaper, and you may be able to have this scrap. So you're going to need 2 2x4s. Don't buy the treated wood because it's wet and it's heavy and it's more expensive. So you're going to need 2 2x4s because these 2 pieces are 34 inches long on the front and back, and this box that you're going to build for the stand is 24 inches, 2 pieces that are 24 inches wide. And you could also cut a couple of pieces 10 inches in length for these end caps or these side pieces. And here I just had this leftover 4x4, which it was, instead of throwing it away, I used it. But you could just use 2x4. Now 2 of these 2x4s at $3 each would be prime wood, would be more than enough. Okay, so we're up to about 33 to $35. Okay, you're going to need 3 1x3s. 1x3 non-treated is prime. It's just lighter and easier to deal with, and easier to make your target balanced with it. So you're going to need 3 of these, and out of that you're going to cut 3 of these 3 T's that you make the stands out of. These 3 T's, this top piece on all 3 is to be compatible with all targets from USPSA, GADPA, IDPA, you name it. All of those targets will be compatible with these sticks on the end if you cut it to 16 7/8 inches exactly. And then when you put these shoot sticks on the end, which are 20 inches, and there's 6 of these, 3 on either side, and then you're going to use a little piece left over for this 9-inch piece here. Okay, so that's going to be 2 8-foot pieces of this shoot stick. So we've got, again, 2 2x4s, 3 1x3s, and 2 of these 8-foot shoot sticks, and then 1 baluster. This is a $1 baluster. Okay, $1. So that's really all the materials, and you want to put it together and test it and adjust it using targets, some dummy targets, some old targets, so that you get the right weight. Now these 1x3s, they're the same on the top, okay, and they're the same, these 20-inch pieces are all the same, okay, but you'll notice they're staggered here, and so the placement of this hole for the bearing is different, and you'll notice they're staggered here. Well, first off, just make this one last, but make the back one 33.5 inches, front one 27 inches. Now, to find where to drill the small pilot hole to start the bearing here, just hold this target, let it balance with the target on it, with a cardboard staple to it, hold it on this metal shaft. The PVC won't be there, and just set it on there and find the perfect balance where when you let it go, it just teeters. And then mark that, and that's where you want that, because that'll give you a perfect slow balance. The only reason it goes this fast is I've screwed some washers. Don't bolt them on there, the bolt is too heavy. Just take some scrap washers. You can buy these by the pound. I had some left over, and depending on how much weight and where you screw it up and down this stick, it will change the center of gravity and the speed. So you'll get not only different speed, but you'll get a different distance that it'll go. The amplitude and the speed will change. So I added that weight just to give it a little bit of weight, a pendulum effect on the bottom. Okay, and then the back one, I determined this point for the bearing by just going a couple of inches higher, and then the 33 inches will clear. If it doesn't clear down here, if it's getting too close to anything, then just trim it a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just want this back one to be longer here and pretty much longer there, a good bit longer on both ends. So if you look at just this one and this one, you'll see it's longer up here and it's longer down here. That's what we want. Everything else about that particular swinger is the same. Those 2 swingers are the same. Now the middle one, you just take the stick and split the difference between these 2 lengths and cut this one and split the difference, and then space it evenly here staggered and evenly here staggered, and that'll give you your point to drill. So you have your 3 pilot holes with a small bit, very small bit, 3 pilot holes, and then you'll take a butterfly bit and carefully centered drill only about this deep on each side, and that'll give you the place that the bearing will just slip in and be held with liquid nails. It'll fit in that slot. It'll hold in there while you test. You won't even have to glue it at first. Just test it without, don't glue it up till you're finished with everything. But then there's only one other hole to drill, and it's slightly wider, with a butterfly bit slightly wider than this shaft, through that same small pilot hole. So you have the pilot hole, the wide butterfly bit, and the narrower butterfly bit, and that gives you all the holes. You don't want this shaft to touch wood in the center of each of these. You just want it to touch the bearing. And you notice the bearing is independent of this outside piece. It's a bearing, and that's why it's so smooth and independent, and it gives you that 15 seconds of smooth travel. But the bearing also keeps these targets from moving like this. So when you screw these on, if I didn't already say it, make sure put one screw in and then adjust these till they're vertical, perfect, and then put that other screw in. Make sure and pilot hole every screw that you put in this thing. Pilot hole everything. You don't want anything to split now or later. So you can countersink 2 holes here and put some Titebond exterior glue in this joint, and then screw these together. But you don't want to use screws that are so long that they're going to interfere with this bearing. I didn't seem to have a problem with that. It was something I was aware of. You just want to mark the centers. A very simple construction. And then at the end, if you want to modify, play around with the weights, where they are on here and how many washers you use, you'll see that I didn't even need to put one on the back. I probably could have got away with no weights, but again, it just works out to be a really nice swinger, and it's easy to set up. Set this stick just a little bit forward so that it's a little harder to trigger by accident, and then you could even put a little rubber piece on the bottom for a slick floor to keep, but outdoors you shouldn't have any problem. And here we go. Shooter ready, stand by, beep.